September 2nd, 2008. It was a formative day for the future of RuneScape, as it introduced a new type of content to the game. Distractions and diversions, or D&Ds for short. Unlike minigames, which were found in fixed locations, D&Ds would appear semi-randomly over the whole world. And if you were lucky enough to find them, they would offer all sorts of lucrative rewards. One of the most well-known diversions came in the form of penguin hide-and-seek, where each week, 10 camouflaged penguins would spawn in and wander around the entire world. Each penguin you found would give you points that could be spent on decent experience in any skill, making it a valuable use of your time. Now, obviously, trying to find all 10 penguins by yourself would be a tall order, let alone doing it every week. So naturally, players started to band together to split the work. And soon, a community for finding the penguins was born. Team Penguin, as the name suggests, was a group of friends chats which would keep track of all the penguins on World 60, letting people find them as quickly as they could. Over time, they'd even learn to wrangle the penguins, and get them trapped in houses or other places they couldn't move far from. But a friends chat could only host so many players at once, so an accompanying forum post was made on the official RuneScape forums. Penguin Locations version 1. This was the beginning of one of the first and most famous service chats in the game. But we're not here to talk about the history of Team Penguin today. Instead, our main story takes place 9 years later, to see how the creation of this group of penguin hunters led to the largest forum scandal in modern RuneScape history.
Here at Falador Salon, people always ask me how my clients get such luscious locks of hair. I say, that's a weird question. What are you doing in my shop? Get out. But I'll let you in on a little secret. It's because I use Keeps. Did you know that 2 in 3 men will experience hair loss by the age of 35? It's terrible if you ask me. After all, if they go fully bald, they won't need haircuts anymore. I'll be out of a job. But it doesn't have to be this way. You too can keep your hair with Keeps. If you're looking to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or just make sure your current hair is in the best condition it can possibly be, Keeps has the solution for you. They offer a variety of treatments that make sure all your needs are met, no matter how needy or greedy you are. And I know, it's easy to forget things. That's why I keep my hamster trapped inside his wheel, with constantly replenishing food and water. It's like a modern-day Sisyphus. If you too need things automatically taken care of for you, then a Keep subscription will see your supplies delivered straight to your door. No running low on refills. You'll always have what you need. Forever. Hair loss stops with Keeps. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/RSWillMissIt or click the link in the description. That's keeps.com/RSWillMissIt.
This week we are going to be talking about an organization called Team Penguin, based out of World 60. With me today is the leader of Team Penguin, Canada Grrl.
Hi there.
It's been just a few weeks since the release of Penguin Hide-and-Seek. World 60 Pengs has become a force to be reckoned with, and needs a strong leader to keep it going. And so, Canada Grrl rises to the occasion, leading the group and taking responsibility for posting a new forum thread each week, which lists all the locations for the new penguins without fail. World 60 Pengs are so effective that their mere existence makes Penguin Hide-and-Seek even more popular, since now people can easily find the locations of all the penguins on World 60, which then makes the group even more popular in a never-ending cycle of popularity. The popularity is even felt at RuneFest, which places hidden penguin toys around the venue to let you play the game in real life, a tradition that's been seen at every RuneFest ever held. Week after week, the old penguins are replaced with new ones. Week after week, they're hunted down on World 60. And week after week, the old forum thread is abandoned and a new one is made. Things become a little bit more streamlined when Canada Grrl is made a forum moderator. Now they can lock the old threads themselves rather than wait for someone else to do it. Some players were skeptical of Canada's moderator status, believing she received it purely for penguin management purposes, despite her long history of activity on the forums outside the weekly penguin listings. Although it didn't take long for the prolific penguin threads to become a majority of her post history. 100 threads, 200 threads, 300 threads. The system worked, and it worked well. No one put up a fuss. Well, that is until April 19th, 2017, almost a decade after all this started. On a forum moderator review thread, a player complains about the current state of the minigame forums. In the late 2010s, Penguin Hide and Seek dominated in popularity, so this section is littered with locked weekly threads, as there aren't enough threads being made to push them off the front page. Then community manager Mod Kalea catches note of this comment, and thinks that it sounds reasonable enough. So, Kalea makes a post in the hidden forum moderator-only forum and asks if there's any reason a new thread is being made every week, rather than just using the same thread and updating it each week until it maxes out at 2,000 comments. A hearty discussion breaks out as a result. Some people don't see an issue with the way it's been done so far, while others agree that it did make sense to condense the threads. Canada Grrl specifically chimes in with her own thoughts. Why now? If the multiple threads were really a problem, why has it taken 9 years for anyone to speak up about it? The J-mods never returned to the thread with an answer for her. Instead, on April 21st, an announcement was made in the same hidden forums that they'd be enforcing the new rule. As of April 26th, no more weekly threads would be permitted anywhere on the official forums, with no further discussion on the matter. Mod Kalea recognized the changes were sudden, and told the forum moderators that they could lay the blame solely at her feet for this. So after 9 years of settling into a routine, the Penguin team have 5 days to uproot how they handle their forum presence. To say they were scrambling was an understatement. It might sound a little silly if you're not familiar with the forums. It's just posting one thread instead of several. What's the big deal? But the RuneScape forums can be a little awkward to navigate. Generally, when someone makes a big thread, they make a series of reserved posts. The forums have a very strict character limit, so you need to predict how many posts you'll need to say everything you'll need to say, and then edit in the information to the spare posts later. Since everything is posted chronologically, if you don't reserve any posts, they'll just appear at the end of the thread, which could be anywhere from page 1 to page 200. And you don't want to end up in a situation where you have to direct people to pages 17, 73, or 117 for more info. The Penguin team knew how to structure a weekly thread perfectly, but not a permanent one. Too few reserved posts and important information will be scattered all over the thread. Too many and the post is littered with useless spam at the start. And if they got this wrong, who knows how long this thread would last? How long would their mistakes be on display? The team needed to discuss these details, and fast. Canada Grrl was not the only person behind World 60 Pengs after all. There were 2 to 3 people who helped with the forum posts, and then there were all the Penguin Wranglers who actually found them each week. There was no way they could figure out how to handle this overnight, so she gave them all the heads up of the incoming change. But it wasn't just the team who would be affected by the new rule. All players would probably be confused by the sudden shift from weekly threads to a single one. Canada Grrl didn't use any social media, so she asked the rest of the team to spread the word to the players. Penguin threads would now be using a mega thread instead of weekly ones. The Team Peng Twitter is quick to share the news. Shortly after, on April 22nd, they made a Twitter poll to see what players thought about the change, asking whether a centralized thread would affect them much. And shortly after that, on April 24th, Jagex makes contact with Canada Grrl to inform her that she has been removed from the moderator team. Not just for leaking confidential information from the moderator forums, but also for using said information to spark a fire around a change that had not yet been implemented. In today's reign of social media, it can be easy to forget how popular the RuneScape forums used to be. Just like how easy it is to forget to subscribe to Will Miss It without a mid-video call to action. While they've since dwindled, the forums regularly saw over 8,000 visitors daily back in the golden days, a pretty significant number for a game discussion board in the mid to late 2000s. A lot of veteran players have likely used the official forums at some point, so when they heard of the drama unfolding, a good number of them felt obliged to throw their hat in the ring. And, well, you know what the RuneScape community is like. Even if they hadn't used the forums before, if there was an excuse to light torches and raise pitchforks, they'd be there. So when April 25th rolls around, and the change is finally announced on the public forums, shortly followed by the official announcement from the Penguin team about how they would handle the change, the forums explode. Or, to be more precise, it's a bloodbath. The comments are ruthless, tearing into Mod Kalaya for forcing the change, and many accusing her for trying to kill off the more active communities. The threadmaker, also a member of the Penguin team, quietly supports the comments being made against the community management. Giving it a day before responding, Kalaya makes a statement explaining the intention behind the rule, saying that when the forums are already low on activity, a sea of locked threads on the front page doesn't look appealing for retrospective readers, and that keeping it all in a mega thread will make the place look more active. Well, that settles that then. Situation over, everyone go home. Yeah, of course that's not the end of it. The forum reaches a boiling point. Over the following week, the state of the forums is a hot topic. Players and forum moderators alike discussing the real problems of the forums and how they can be dealt with. Some discussions are civil, many less so. Just a week after Canada Grrl's demodding on May 5th, the topic boils over to Reddit, where a huge post is made detailing the discontent with the forums. While Canada Grrl's demodding may have been the inciting incident, the post goes into detail on further problems, such as other forum moderators being demodded for giving feedback in private, Jagex moderators shutting down threads for not being original enough, and threads made by the staff asking for feedback being ignored by the same staff who made them. The author also talks about how a number of threads which saw players and F-mods coming together to discuss improvements were locked by Jagex moderators for arbitrary reasons despite hundreds of constructive posts. Both on the forums and in the Reddit thread, then lead community manager Mod Balance steps in to apologize to the D&D community, explaining that the forums are old and that they promise to have another look at the rules. This post is also torn into for ignoring one of the main points of the uproar, the demodding of the Penguin Queen. When the decision is questioned by the players, Mod Balance brushes it off, and simply says that the players don't know all the details. Jagex refuses to elaborate on what those details are, causing the player response to only get more heated. Hours later, another Reddit thread dominates the front page, this time criticizing Jagex directly for the treatment of Canada Grrl, once again setting the sights on Mod Kalaya, making her the main target of harassment. This continues over the weekend until the start of the work week, where Mod Mathy jumps into the ring. This time he tries to explain the planned change to the official forums in a different way, claiming that repeat threads had always been against the forum rules, but Jagex were just turning a blind eye to the Penguin threads until now. It doesn't take long for people to hit back. Are the weekly patch notes against the rules then too? You should just combine those into a mega thread and stop spamming the forums. Amidst the fight, Canada Grrl signs up to Reddit so she can speak out and share her account of the issue, painting a confused image where she saw no option but to share the upcoming forum changes with her team, so they could be ready with the new style of thread when the rule came into effect on the following Penguin Reset Day. The Penguin Queen quickly becomes the Reddit Queen and support rallies around her, threads popping up left and right about Jagex's terrible mishandling of the whole situation, how they've destroyed the forums and learned nothing from their past mistakes. The community demands not only an explanation but an apology, and a promise to do better going forward. On May 10th, then community champion Mod Shawnee, Reddit's favorite mod, steps in to give the next statement on behalf of Jagex. He finally shares the details of Canada Grrl's demodding, saying that the community forced their hand due to the public outrage and Canada Grrl giving her side of the events. In the post, Shawnee commemorates Canada Grrl for challenging the decision made by Jagex, saying that no moderators are ever demodded for doing so. Yeah. However, Canada Grrl was demodded specifically for leaking confidential information from the hidden forums, and for supposedly discussing sensitive personal details about a staff member via in-game private chat. Everyone loved Shawnee, so the matter cools down quickly after this, and people return to grinding experience while complaining about the game. The forum rule was eventually reverted, and the Penguin threads returned to being a weekly occurrence. To this day, Canada Grrl continues to make them, although without the green crown she once had. A few months later, in August 2017, Mod Kalaya left community management and assumed a less public role in the company. It's not hard to imagine this might have been a result of how immensely the community had despised her, so she was put to use in a department where all the players would love and adore her work, the MTX team. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's kinda crazy how something so small can blow up into such a big fallout. It's also kind of charming to see players rally back to the old forums in its time of need, even so long after its prime. Needless to say, despite all the promises, the forums have returned to being completely broken and deader than before. Just like my heart. My name is Will Miss It, and I'll see you all later.